Okay, hi everyone. The concept that we're going to learn soon, okay, is what we call the equation of a straight line or the general form of a linear function. Okay, there's many ways um, to name this thing. Okay, but the most common two names are the general form of a linear function and the equation of a straight line. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with equation of a straight line, okay, to make it easier to refer to. Now if you notice what is actually the equation of a straight line, it is actually when because previously we've drawn graphs, okay, and the graphs, normally the functions that you see in the graph are things like y equals to 6x, y equals to 2x plus 1, y equals to, we had the, what do you call this, 2 minus 4x, the one more graph like that. Okay, so there is y equals to something x plus something. Okay, so in general, okay, we're going to label it as a general form or the format that we are going to write down this function or equation. Okay, now so this format is actually over here, up here. Okay, y equals to mx plus c. Okay, y equals to mx plus c. Alright, so this would be our format or the general equation of a straight line. Okay, so without further ado, let us look at what are the elements that make up this thing. Now over here we have the y and the x, our two variables. So this equation connects two quantities y and x. Okay, now what do the other two numbers do, or what do they mean? Okay, let's look at the easier one. Let's look at the c. Now for c, we have okay, if I were to move c upwards, the graph goes up. If I were to move c downwards, the graph goes down. Okay, but what is actually c? Now c controls the position of the graph, whether is it going up or going down. But there's another meaning to c, and c is actually the y coordinate when the line passes through the y-axis. One more time, c is actually the coordinate, the y value, when the line passes through the y-axis. So when the line passes through the y-axis, we're going to get a point over here. Do you see 0, 1? X, the 0 is the x coordinate, the 1 is the y coordinate. So if I move this thing upwards, okay, let's say if my c is 2, my y coordinate is going to be at 2. If you see, my y coordinate is going to be at 2. If I were to move this thing upwards again, let's say to 4, my y coordinates is going to be 4. Next one, if I were to move down to -1, okay, my y coordinates again is going to be -1. So this c controls this c is actually the y-intercept, and the y is called the y-intercept, and this y-intercept controls the position of the graph, right? So let me move this up to a favorable position. Right, the next number that we'll see is actually m. Okay, so m, if I were to adjust m, okay, you see that if m increases, the graph becomes steeper. If m decreases, the graph becomes less steep. Until a certain point, it becomes a horizontal line. Okay, and further after that, it slopes in the other direction, in the negative direction. Okay, so now what is m? M is actually the slope or the gradient of the line. Okay, so we call m the slope or the gradient of the line. Okay, so what does this gradient do? It controls the steepness of the line. Okay, so in general, y equals to mx plus c. Y and x are the two unknowns or the two variables. M will be the gradient, c will be the y-intercept. M controls the steepness, c controls the position. Now without further ado, alright, let's turn on to our notes. Okay, let's go on to our notes over here. Now you may pause this video to quickly copy down what's going on here, but I'm just going to go through and just explain what's going on. Now over here, we talk about linear functions. Okay, when we talk about linear functions or linear or straight line functions, okay, we have three ways to represent our linear function. First, we can represent it in terms of algebra, okay, meaning our y equals to 2x minus 1 as as an algebraic equation. Okay, we can express a function as an equation. Next, it is a set of we can express it as a set of values of x and y. So let's say x has a certain value, y would correspond to those values. Okay, and for each x there is a unique y. Okay, so or there's exactly one value of y, and this set of values of x and y, they will form a line in the Cartesian plane, and this line would be a straight line graph in the Cartesian plane. Okay, now in sec 2 and sec 3 we're going to look at curve graphs, and we're going to look at different functions. Okay, so for now, for linear functions, as you can see in the word linear, okay, the word linear has the word line. Okay, so now we are going to look at line graphs. Right, now specifically we're going to go on to the more technical and the algebraic part of this concept. We're going to look at equation of straight line. Now the general form is our y equals to mx plus c. Now the y and x are our variables, so this equation connects y and x, or x and y. Now however, the two numbers gradient, okay, is the steepness or the slope of the line, whereas the y-intercept, the c is the y-intercept, or it is the y value where the line passes through the y-axis. So for example, okay, let me write down two examples over here. Now let's say I have y equals to 2x plus 1. Our variables are x and y. The gradient, okay, the gradient or the m, okay, is equals to 2. Okay, so the slope or the steepness of the line, the value is 2. Then the y-intercept of the line is our plus 1 or 1. Okay, so in every equation, what we need to do is to identify the gradient and the y-intercept. Okay, or given the y-intercept and the gradient, we need to form our equation. So these are the two skills that we need to have in this concept. Okay, all right, so let me give you another example. So y is equals to maybe negative 4 plus 5x. Okay, now as you can see that this equation is written in this form. Is it in the form of y equals to mx plus c? No, we need to rearrange such that it is y equals to something x plus c. Okay, so let me rearrange this to give me y equals to 5x minus 4. Okay, so when you compare, you can see that it's in the format of y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so 5 is our m, c is our negative 4. So here we can say that the gradient is 5. Okay, and the y-intercept is going to be 4 and negative 4. Okay, okay, so now let's look at some questions from our textbook. Okay, so hi everyone. Well, so we are going to look at practice now 2. Okay, which page is it at? Let me see. 154. Okay, so we are going to look at questions from practice now 2, page 154. Now let me write this in black. I think it's more suitable in black. Okay. Alright, so let's write. Okay, now let's look at first question. Okay, the first question, the first skill is given the straight line equation, identify the gradient and y-intercept. Okay, so first one, 1a. Okay, so I'm going to form a table. Okay, if you don't mind me, I'm going to form a table of the m and the c. Okay, m meaning the gradient, c meaning the y-intercept. Okay, so gradient, okay, I'm just going to write gradient, I'm just going to write y-intercept. Okay, right, the first linear equation, y is equals to 4x minus 3. Okay, so 4x minus 3. Now y equals to, one more time, y is equals to mx plus c. The m is our gradient. The c is our y-intercept. Oh my god, why is this shaking? Okay, this c is the y-intercept. Okay, alright, so let's look at the first one. Now y equals to mx plus c. Now the gradient m is 4. The y-intercept c would be negative 3. Okay, now next one, b. Y is equals to negative x plus 7. Right, the gradient negative x, so m is negative 1. Okay, so take note of the negative 1. The y-intercept is 7. Okay, c. Okay, c, y is equals to x plus 5 over 2. Okay, so before we start, okay, y equals to mx plus c. So what times x in order to get that x? If there's nothing, usually there is a 1 in front, correct? So actually the gradient is 1. Y-intercept would be 5 over 2 as a fraction. Okay, right, d. D, we have y is equals to 7.16 minus 0.5 x. Now is this in the y equals to mx plus c that form? No. So if it's not, let us rearrange such that we will get that form. Okay, rearrange such that we will get that form. Okay, and the gradient over here, negative 0.5. The y-intercept 7.16. So this will be the m, this will be the c. Okay, y equals to mx plus c. Okay, next one. Okay, for e. So e, y is equals to 6x. Okay, so y is equals to 6x. So the m is 6. What about the c? Is there anything behind? Usually if there's nothing behind, there will be a plus 0. So the y-intercept is 0. So now what does this mean for the y-intercept to be 0? Meaning when x is 0, y is also 0. Meaning the y-intercept is at the origin. Okay, the y-intercept is at the origin. Okay, last but not least for f. Okay, for f, y is equals to 6. Okay, now if I were to write this, is there any x over there? No, actually that is y equals to 0x plus 6. Okay, so the gradient is 0. The y-intercept is 6. Okay, now sooner or later, if you look at the attention above, right, the gradients of some lines are 0. So we'll learn about this soon. Okay, so far we have these functions, and then we identify the gradient and intercept. Now we do the reverse. If they give us the gradient and y-intercept, let us write down the equation. Okay, so for number 2, it's going to be straightforward. Now number 2, the gradient is 3, the y-intercept is 5. Okay, so now y equals to mx plus c. Okay, you don't have to write this actually. You don't have to write this step. I'm just going to y equals to mx plus c. So you're going to write y equals to 3x plus 5. M is 3, c is 5. Right, as over here. So m is 3, c is 5. And this will be our final answer. Okay, so b, without needing the help of the general formula, okay, our gradient is negative 7. The y-intercept c is negative 2. So if I were to write as an equation, y equals to something x plus something. So what is the gradient? Negative 7. What is the c? Minus 2. Like that. Can? Can? Alright, c. Now gradient is 1. The y-intercept is negative 2 over 3. So the function that we're looking at is equals to y equals to something x minus this. Okay, so 1x plus this. So to simplify this, so is y equals to x minus 2 over 3. Like that. Okay? Okay, so C is done. Okay, let's look at D. Okay, D. Okay, maybe I write below. Okay, D. Now the gradient is okay, gradient is negative 1. The C is 7.69. So let me write it out. So y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so y is equals to negative x plus 7.69. We tidy up the negative 1. Okay, so we hide the 1. Okay, E. Okay, E, the gradient is a negative half. Y-intercept is 0. So we're going to write this as y equals to mx plus c. So y is equals to negative half x plus 0. We're going to hide it as well. Okay, so usually we hide the 1s and the 0s. Okay, okay, last one of the day, f. F is equals gradient is equals to 0. Okay, and the y-intercept c is equals to negative half. Okay, so this will give me y equals to mx plus c. So 0x is just 0, and now y is equals to negative half. Okay, so like that. Okay, so far so good. Now if there's any question, don't hesitate to PM me. So this is the end of this video. I hope you have a great day of learning ahead. Right, bye.